Here's what no one tells you. For 35 years, I existed in the world as Everly, an ambitious, career-driven writer. I never thought much about becoming a mother and how it would feel.
Is the heartbeat
You're doing good. Heart rate is great.
Yes.
Mom is doing
Then
great.
one day, all of a sudden, a bomb goes off in your life.
Congratulations, Mama. Watch the head. She's brought in 5 p.m. on the dot. I can make it home for dinner.
Oh my God, Ev. She's here. We did it.
Okay, Mama. Ready to feed your baby?
How could I get something in my system? Well, we need to feed her first, and then we'll take care of it.
When you become a mother, the identity shift happens so fast you don't even realize it. Oh my God, she's so perfect. I should be writing. You make me happy when skies are gray. I need to be writing. You'll never know deep. Aaron? I can't do this. I can't do this. Why am I the one in charge of this human?
What can I do?
Feed her and never get me pregnant again.
Hey, sweetie.
Ever since my daughter was born, it's like my heart is now beating outside of my body.
I've never felt love like this before.
I don't even remember what my life was like before I had
Being
kids.
a mama is my greatest role.
So am I.
My body felt like an empty vessel, an abandoned hotel with no quick fix to snap back.
Hey, you look fancy. Did you shower?
Hardly. Okay, if I leave now, that gives me about 2 hours before I have to be back for the next feeding.
No one expects you to go to a birthday party 1 month postpartum.
It's Laura. And besides, I don't want to be one of those moms that loses all of her friends as soon as she has a baby.
Hey, I got this. Please go.
Okay, thanks. Happy birthday, Laura.
Ev, you made it!
Okay, so I have an hour until I have to be back in mom mode.
Oh my gosh, you are superwoman. Marissa, this is Everly, one of my best friends.
Hi.
An amazing writer, and now a badass mom making it all happen.
Hardly.
I am so excited for your next book of essays. What are you writing about?
It's just been hard to find time to write and hard to find inspiration when I'm so sleep deprived.
I know what you mean. It's so hard to find time to be creative.
I need at least an hour of meditation before my mind feels free.
I'm so free. I'm so free, I don't even know how free I am. Freedom. I'm so free, I can go wherever I want, whenever I want.
Me too, because we don't have a baby.
What is a baby?
Oh, I'm so
incredibly free.
I wish you guys could come see us sooner than next month.
I know. I'm dying to meet my granddaughter. You getting any sleep?
Nope. We're exhausted for sure, but we're just really in the moment, trying to enjoy every second of parenthood, finding our new normal.
Even in my marriage, we were under the same roof, raising the same baby, and having two completely different experiences.
I'm just so proud of you, Erin. You're such a natural father already. Tell me more about that adorable baby girl. She looks just like you, Erin. It's astonishing. I've been telling all of my
Wait, Mom, I gotta get to work.
How are we doing, Mama?
Hi.
Scoot your butt down, feet in stirrups. Let's take a look at those stitches.
Am I okay?
The stitches are dissolving nicely. Your uterus is coming down in size. Are you planning to have more children?
No, not anytime soon.
You cleared for sex. And remember, lube is your friend. This is for you. Any questions? Oh, right. Any symptoms of depression, detachment, or disinterest in the things you normally enjoy?
Nope.
Great. See you next year for your annual.
I was desperate to find myself again, like a detective looking for clues that I still exist.
Looks like I'm gonna need your advice on becoming a mother. Is there anything you wish you knew? I mean, tell me everything. I missed you.
Come inside. maybe we don't find the old version of ourselves again. Maybe we uncover a new identity that includes motherhood. And if we share our experiences, we won't feel so alone. I didn't realize it at the time, but the baby isn't the only one born that day. You'll see.
Okay. Hi, ladies. Hi. Thank you for joining me on this We Got You Mama Summit. I wanted to introduce these two lovely ladies I have before me. It was interesting because when I was interviewing a bunch of people, I already knew I wanted to get Sarah involved and, reach out. And then I talked to Emily and she was like, I know this person in Los Angeles. I was like, oh, okay, I'm sure I know them too. In Los Angeles, there's only millions and millions of, us living here. And she's like, well, she's a documentarian. I go, stop it. I go, is it Sarah Moshman who lives down the street and I've been working out with for 6, 7
I've been going to Fit for Mom for 6 years. Yeah.
I love it. And I was like, yeah, we are friends. I was like, let's maybe do this all together. And she's like, yeah, I watched your film. Anyway, I was just, you're out in Oregon, we're here in LA. And the one person you threw out there, like this person in LA. And I was like, I'm friends with her.
I know it.
I even
you're in the film.
In
Carly's in the film. Yeah.
Just as a little I'll go show up and hang out. And that was fun to see her in action. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. We had just introduced, Sarah, your film to our world here at this summit. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for, raising the money and writing. And I know it's such a process every time you delve into a project. It's a lot. So tell us about that process, how this came to be. I know you are a mother of 2, so let's just chat about you and about the film and, the birthing, pun intended, of
literally
of a mother is born.
I feel like this film has been sort of brewing inside me for the 6 years. My daughter's 6, my son is 3. As I said, I've been going to Fit for Mom since my daughter was 6 weeks old. So seeking out community and finding representations of the postpartum experience has been a journey. And that's why, Emily, I love your book, as we'll get to that. But any way that moms can feel seen, in their experiences is so unbelievably powerful. And as a filmmaker, I, specialize in making documentaries and now narrative films as well that represent trailblazing women throughout history, ordinary women doing extraordinary things. And then once I became a mom, I just wanted to infuse motherhood into my work as much as possible. So I made another short film called Unbound, which is about the first mother in space, based on a true story. But there was this visual, as you just saw in the film, of her, Caitlin, our actress, Everly, the character, at the bottom of this hole, essentially, right? That was really the visual that drove this whole thing. I've had that image in my mind for the past 6 years. Anytime I would, in the movie where she sees her non-parent friends and feels so removed from them, feels so lost, so distant. And it's even just a symbol for the way we feel so far away from our former selves, that grieving process we all go through, whether we call it that or call it matrescence or whatever we call it. That is such a powerful experience we all go through. And I didn't have the vocabulary for it 6 years ago. I didn't know about matrescence. in the way that it's discussed today. I didn't have a lot of friends having babies, but that was the feeling of I'm like beneath the earth. I'm not dead. It's not a depression necessarily. It could be, sure, certainly could be, but nobody bothered to diagnose it. It just was like, I feel so far away from this version of myself that I knew for, at the time, 34 years, 31, 34 years. And so I wanted to express that cinematically somehow. So that's really where A Mother is Born started, was that visual. And then also at the end of the film, she's sort of crawling towards her office, right? And she gets like yanked back.
Right.
That's something I feel like every weekend. Like I happen to share this office, my office, with my son, who's 3. So at 5 o'clock, it's his room. Before 5, it's my room. And so on the weekends, I could envision myself like literally not being able to travel 5 steps forward to my office here. It may as well have been on another planet, because on the weekends, our role as mothers can be so all consuming. So it's kind of those 2 themes, those visuals. And then in the beginning of the film, I was just obsessed with this piece of equipment. It's called the Lambda head, and it physically turns the camera, 360 degrees. And so as a filmmaker, I thought, what an exciting way to represent how our lives are truly turned upside down as soon as the baby is here, without having to say that, like writing is such a powerful medium. Emily, you can describe that in pages and chapters, but how do you express that visually? And so that was an exciting exercise of like, oh, what if we use this really cool piece of equipment and then we actually show how a world is turned upside down by motherhood. So those were kind of the visuals that drove me. This is the first time I've ever written a film. I took a screenwriting course on the weekends for 10 weeks to write this script, and it was very healing, and it was like therapy, just like getting it all out. I did 20 drafts of the script, and then hired an amazing crew of women, some moms mixed in, as of course, and that was really empowering too. Like when I'm the one making the decisions as the producer, as the director, as the writer, I'm going to hire women, I'm going to hire moms, I'm going to empower as many people on set, in front of the camera as well as behind. And so, yeah, we shot this movie over, I think 3 days, 2 days here at this house, and 1 nearby at a hospital set. And it was just such a joy to make this film. And it feels like my diary is being read out loud. So I really hope other moms get something out of it, even if it's not your exact experience, but just like even some sliver of representation of what you went through in that sleep deprived, messy, confusing, very life affirming and depressing time of life, where we're truly going through the greatest transformation we go through in our entire beings. And Emily, I loved how in your book, it wasn't just about baby number 1, it was also about baby number 2. And I feel like A Mother is Born is really based on having my daughter, my first child. However, I feel like I've gone through another version of that with my son. So yeah, that's a little bit of backstory.
I love it. Yeah, one of the images that really, like the camera angle shifting and turning, but also there's one where she's looking at a clock and the numbers all fall to the bottom. That just,
because what is time?
Exactly. No, I'm like, how did she do that? That was so cool.
Visual.
I really feel like that disorientation happens a lot to first-time moms, and like you said, that matrescence, it's really disorganizing. Like adolescence, it's kind of like, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who am I still resembling from before? And yeah, in my experience, that real disorientation came with the second child. I had kind of skirted around or wasn't so impacted. I think maybe because of how socialized I was to be that good girl and that good woman, that I really embraced the kind of super mom myth. And with 1 kid and being very high achieving, capable person, like I said, I kind of got away with it with the first child, but then adding in that second kiddo, I couldn't. And so it was really dethroned my identity of being productive and functional and having my stuff together, when in all reality, that was just like crumbling. So I did really, I know that in the film, the character is, that's her first child. And yet there were still so many things that I could relate to in that moment for myself, of that or disorganization, and just like, who am I? I want to do these things, or do I want to, with being a repeat mom, because I think it's also such a can be a unique experience. And also that isolation you speak of, I feel like at least to date in our country, repeat parents are really forgotten by structures of and systems of support because there's so many assumptions that are made of like, oh, you've done this
You've
before.
done this. You got this. You've been through this before.
Absolutely.
I'm
And
like, but I have 3 now and I'm outnumbered. I can't do this.
yeah. Well, and then like each child is a unique person and each
100%.
pregnancy is a unique experience. I was very naive to think it'd be like, oh, just like the first time. And in labor, the thing we kept saying was like, this is so different. This is so different. This is so different. Not really realizing this unconscious expectation that it would be somehow a carbon copy of the first time.
Right.
And no.
And no.
And no. And not at all. So
there's already such limited resources for the postpartum mom first time around. Like it's all about the baby. Even when we think about baby registries, it's like a onesie, you know, a crib, diaper genie, like everything's for the baby. You're overwhelmed with new products and so little attention is actually placed on what happens once you get home. And how are you actually going to be a parent and raise that baby in those days and weeks and months that follow when the support sort of dies away? Like everyone at your baby shower is like, I'm going to be there for you, like village, like here's your gift. And it's like, it's
you're not
now.
Can you call them at 3 a.m.? Because that's
like,
when I'd like to do like call a friend and be like, can we switch spots?
Seriously, there's so little. And I think for me, the switch between 1 kid and 2, and Carly, you tell me with 3 kids, like, I think for me, kid 1, it's like, oh, I took on feelings of guilt and like isolation and like, I'm not doing enough. If I can't hang, if I can't hack it, I'm not a good mom. All of that bullshit we all like subscribes to first time around. Second time around, it's just as hard, if not harder. There's a light at the end of the tunnel because I see my daughter who's now 6 and I can say, oh, we're getting somewhere. I know where we're going. These tantrums at 3 are like earth shatteringly difficult, but I know there's something on the other side. This time around, I'm angry at the systems that are not set up to support me. So I've graduated from the guilt, but now I'm like just angry. I'm angry that there's no federal paid family leave. I'm angry that there isn't a community of support. I don't have a village. Like I have to pay all this money for childcare and health insurance and education and babysitters. Like, so it's a different kind of struggle, but it's still a struggle. And there's absolutely no, you know, grace or resources given for a second time mom, third time mom. You know, it's like, oh, you got it. You've done this. It's going to be easier the second time around. And it just isn't.
If you want childcare, you'll be paying 3 times as much.
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly.
Like impossible. I was like, how am I ever gonna afford to get away for a moment?
How are you gonna have a date night?
How am I at, you know, $25 an hour times 3? Like, and that's for
go to the doctor. Like if you're on a doctor's appointment, like, I mean,
I would probably force them to like at least push them all together. And I was like, I don't care that you don't do that. I don't have the time and just copay after copay after copay after copay to like, I was like, you're going to stick them all together. I'm going to pay 1 copay and you're going to work it out. We're going to be in and out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to advocate for yourself, but if you know, it took me 3 kids later to finally like advocate for myself and my kid, right? So it's like, I was very lost in the beginning.
And the way that we conflate the two, it's like there's 2 journeys, right? Maybe more, you tell me, Emily, but it's like the journey of becoming a mother is completely separate from your mother journey with your child. So like, I hate that every statement has to be qualified with, I love my kid, but also I'm struggling. Those have to be, you have to qualify one for the other and it's exhausting. It's like, of course I have love for my children, but I, Sarah, am also separately struggling as a person becoming a mother. Those are 2 very separate things. And yet we're like, oh, but this is what you wanted, but this is what you didn't.
Well, I think that's the socialization. And like, I think for being advocates and having media that really accurately informs the next generations, that's how we're going to make change. Having books that are first accounts of what it's really like, having your film, having other individuals really share. When I talk to my graduate students about like what it's really like about sleep deprivation, or, you know, how do we, all these other pressures that are happening to caregivers that they didn't, like they literally woke up one day and all of a sudden this society looks at them so differently. And they're looking mostly at the child, but also the caregivers under a different type of microscope that isn't necessarily overtly supportive. It's completely infused with all these mythical expectations and contradictions, and there's really no way to win unless you start to assert yourself and kind of define for yourself, what is it that's going to have me, for myself, what's going to be successful? Like, what is success as a good mom? And kind of detoxing in a way what we have absorbed through our own childhood, for our family cultures. I mean, that was one thing I was really examining when I had the 2 kids, was being half Mexican. Like, what had I somehow overgeneralized from observing my many aunts and all the kids that they had. My grandmother had 13 live births. And with that, I just automatically assumed, oh, she loved it. It was easy. Like all these, like,
she was good at it. Yeah.
She was good at it. Yeah. I mean, there was so many things like that really I was not accounting for, of so many things. Anyways, but the lived reality of beginning to question what I had assumed. And that was liberating, but it was also destabilizing for a while. So I think that's can be what can happen as a first-time mom, or as a second-time mom, or maybe as a third-time mom. I mean, mood and anxiety struggles don't always happen with a first child. Definitely didn't happen for me, but did for the second. And so now just communicating that really candidly with my graduate students, I want them to know, what parents might be going through, what's the headspace that they may have been traversing. And many of them being female identified, like giving them a heads up, should you choose this challenge of being a parent someday, here's like, go in it with your eyes more wide open, or at least aware of some exemplars of how it could be. Not to say it's going to be exactly, how it was for me or for you, or, for you, Carly, that will be replicated, because it can't be, but at least there's more talking about it, letting more people in to that private sphere of that experience. I mean, some of those really intimate scenes that you show, Sarah, are so just that, of how she's kind of looking and examining herself in the shower, and putting on the temporary underwear and the pads and the numbing spray and all these things that until you're living it.
Baby hairs. Yeah.
Yeah. The baby hairs. Oh, totally. The baby, like, oh,
what is life?
Yeah. No one talks about that kind of stuff, but it throws you for a loop once you're like, am I the only one that's getting this hair? Am I the only one that, is wearing a diaper?
Or when you turn on Netflix and any representation of a postpartum mom is just some actress with a bump in her, and is like extremely fit. Maybe that's some women's experience, but that's certainly the exception to the rule. And then we all feel like, oh, I'm not doing this right, or I gained too much weight, or I'm not snapping back fast enough. Like, it's exhausting. And we just don't, that's what was so important to me to have Caitlin Brandis, our actress who played Everly. She's actually had 2 births, but she has twins. So it was she was the perfect person to cast, because her son is, I believe, 6 now. So she had sort of the emotional distance to be able to process this storyline, but also she had twins like 8 months before. So her body was very much still recovering.
I remember you posting it. I was like, I want to audition for this.
No, but it was but it needed to be Caitlin, and I'm just so grateful to her to be so vulnerable and to get in the shower naked. And that's also a product of creating an environment, of course, on set. We used an intimacy coordinator. I wanted Caitlin to feel just liberated and not shameful, but that we never see a postpartum body on screen ever. And she even talked about, as an actress, how hard it is for her to book roles in her postpartum recovery and her finding a new version of herself. Like, it's just hard every step of the way. And if we don't see that, I was just so inspired by her just going there with me and just saying, like, this is real. This is what I look like. And this is what
I think more of that truth telling, more of that truth telling is what is going to break us out of this like invisible glass house that we are kind of built into over the course of our lifetime, and that the predominant patriarchal culture wants us to stay in. And when you give people information, when you give them these images, they're so powerful, and they transcend so, culture and ethnicity and race and all these things, because having a baby is so transformative. And I just think it's such a gift to be able to give that, little exemplar, and like, may this inspire other filmmakers to really, bring that to the main screen, like bring that to mainstream, because if I think the more honest we can be, the healthier moms and families will be, the healthier our country will be, if we can really be honest with the messiness, the untidiness that is transforming.
Yeah, and the
We're
complexity
getting
of
better
who
at
we
it,
are.
right? Within the media, I feel like there's almost too much now, right? You have too much of the picture perfect. This is whatever, the influencers, this Instagram kind of facade of what life is, with children, with pregnancy. But then you have a lot of people that are like, this is me in my postpartum mesh underwear, and this is what life is really like. And it's so far from, my daughter's 13. And when I first had her, I'm sitting on the couch with my newborn. My friend introduced me to Instagram. I mean, that's how far that we've come. Like, that was new. And it was not like that for the first decade of, of me mothering these multiple children. And so I find that, like, it is getting better, but we have such a long way to go. So with you, Sarah, you're using this power, your creativity, your talent of movie making, directing, writing. How is things like this going to change the world, like on a bigger scale? And have you seen that to be true within film and media, and like you're, more involved in that? I'm finding myself stepping away a little bit just with my postpartum journey of in and out and in and out and in and out. It's done its fair share of trauma on, me and my life and my body, and I've healed from that. But it's anyway, I so appreciate this film, all your films and what they've done. So how can we talk more on that and the power that we have in the media to really make change?
Yeah, I mean, I can share some specific examples of my other films. I mean, I made a documentary called The Empowerment Project, Ordinary Women Doing Extraordinary Things, and I drove across the United States with 4 other female filmmakers in 2013. Oh my gosh, over 10 years ago. And we interviewed women you've never heard of, which was the point, right? We interviewed a pilot, athlete, astronaut, mathematician, a vice admiral in the Navy. And what was so powerful about that film, it was really like the little engine that could, we made it for such little amount of money, crowdfunded the whole thing. But what was amazing is in the distribution of the film, we ended up taking the film to middle schools and high schools and colleges and corporations. And it still screens 10 years later, which is such a gift. But like one example, just one on thousands of screenings, is actually in Seattle. We showed the film to 600 high school girls. And this young woman came up to Dana, the producer, and I afterwards. And she said, I didn't know that women could be astronauts until I saw your film today. I think I want to be an astronaut. And it was like, oh my God. Like, it was like, that's it. That's why we made the movie. Great, we're done. Like, it just was like, we came here for you. Like, and that's one example. And she had the courage to come up and talk to us. So imagine all the ripple effect of the girls and women and men and boys too, that saw the film and didn't come up, didn't say something, didn't comment. And so those moments really stick with me truly more than any amount of money or an award. That's what it's all about. And I made another documentary called Losing Sight of Shore about 4 women who got in a rowboat and rowed across the entire Pacific Ocean from America all the way to Australia. It was such a once in a lifetime experience making the film. I wasn't on the boat, but I was met them on land along the way. And that's a whole other Zoom conversation, but I worked on the film for 2 years independently and then ended up getting it on Netflix worldwide. Incredible. But I'll share what's been so cool is, like, I'm not kidding. Other teams of men, women, you name it, have seen the film and decided to row an ocean. I mean, it's like so powerful to see a representation of something that inspires you, or even if it inspires you to do something adjacent, it doesn't matter. The theme of that film is everyone has a Pacific to cross. And that's always been the goal. It's like, Sarah, I'm never going to row an ocean. I mean, who knows? Maybe like around 50, I'll be like, all right, I'm doing it. But it doesn't matter. That inspiration of watching them take on this unbelievable challenge. They set 2 world records. They rowed for 9 months, 24 hours a day, 2 hours on, 2 hours off. I mean, you name it. This film has inspiration for anybody. And that has permeated my psyche for the past 8 years, knowing I can do literally anything I set my mind to because I watched them. And so that was such a great reminder for me, and hopefully anyone that saw it, that it's just that perseverance, that power of the human spirit, whether it's rowing, whether it's becoming an astronaut, whatever that thing is for you. And I apply the same formula truly to films about motherhood, which I would love to make many more of, and on bigger scales. I'm working on feature screenplays as we speak to try to represent mothers in a larger sense. It goes both ways. It's like us as filmmakers need to focus on it and have that specificity, have those details, and we need the audience to demand it. We need the audience to want to be a part of it. We need the gatekeepers at the studios, at the streamers, to be mandating for it, looking for it. So it's the whole ecosystem needs to acknowledge that there is this lack of motherhood representation in film and TV. On social media is wonderful. That's like a groundswell to supply the oxygen that we will need to continue to permeate these larger systems. So we see a lot of motherhood representation now, but it's like, we did a whole study on it for the panel we did last year at Mother's Day. Dr. Nicole Haggard shared some data, which was just mainly focused on so many women in film and TV now. It's like they have it all together, or they're like a mess, like it's like one or the other.
One or the other.
It's just like, I'm perfect and I know how to be a mom, or like they're always like the side character or in the background, or like they've just completely self-sacrificed for their children. There isn't that nuance, that complexity of being an ambitious person as well as being a mother, and that could be in work or not. So I'm excited for us to, not just me, any filmmaker, any storyteller, writer, to infuse more of these realistic portrayals of motherhood, and please, because it just helps all of us feel like we're not doing it wrong and we don't need to feel guilty. And that's a really exciting superpower as someone who's working in media. And I'll just say, in a lot of ways, like, I've been making films for 20 years, which is wild, since I was a teenager. And I truly, finally feel like I'm becoming the artist I've always wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to be that artist 20 years ago, even, 6 years ago. So as hard as being a mother is, it's also informing my work in such a beautiful way. And I feel like I have such a deeper well of empathy, and I can connect with other people in a way that I never otherwise could. So, nothing in life that's good is worth having. It doesn't come easily. Nothing worth having comes easily. So I'm just really trying to give myself grace that I'm in a tough season of life. My kids are young, they need me so desperately. I'm still like wiping butts and putting on shoes. Okay. So I've got a lot happening in my life. So it's okay if a project that I care deeply about takes a little bit longer, or, quality over quantity. So I'm trying to free myself of that same overachiever, accomplishment-based worker, and just make meaningful work that I really care about, like A Mother Is Born, and just stay focused on that. That's all I can really do, right?
I love that. And I love how you said, like, I'm going to do it. It might just take a little longer. And I think that can really resonate with people. It's like, okay, I just have so many diapers to deal with and so much going on. Like, I can't right now, but I'm going to do it, and I think there's a lot of inspiration in those words. And I remember sitting on Kat's couch, our mutual friend, like crying, watching your film, Losing Sight of Shore. And it seemed like yesterday, but also seemed like a million years ago, what I mean?
Totally.
And it's true. You want to get off that couch and be like, let's go. And just continuing to inspire yourself with those things. I think partaking of quality art, I think, is important for human beings, right? Like quality, like there's so much to, like, yes, let's escape, let's watch this, let's read this for fun. But I think it's also really important for us to read these real books, to watch these real films, to feel connected to each other. I mean, yes, we're all superheroes, but like we can't really fly, but we can do really amazing things. And I think it's really fun to be able to, I don't know, watch Sarah fly, watch her do all the things that she's doing. I am so excited to hear about these feature film products.
Thank you.
Coming up. Because she's going to make them absolutely amazing as she does all her work. I want to jump into a little bit of, my poor background is screaming. My house is a mess. But I wanted I had this, just this one quote from your book that I wanted to read. And it was after your first was finally born after, such a long labor. And you said in that space, I felt with my body that in birthing my daughter, I was also birthing myself. The first line of this chapter, the first chapter is "A Mother is Born," which is also the title of this film, which I thought was so cool that you guys came together, and then like we all came together. And then she says, with each wave and urge to push a chord within me, this new self would not always be in sync with the outside expectations, and that would be okay. I thought that was really beautiful. With each wave and urge to push a chord within me, this new self, right? You're like a new, different person after these. There's like before babies and after babies. That's forever what it will be. Won't always be in sync with outside expectations, and that would be okay. I think we find so many expectations that just weigh on us. So tell us more about how this was, for the mom out there that feels all the expectations, all the things. Maybe she's lost in postpartum. Maybe she doesn't know if she has postpartum depression. Maybe she doesn't have the urge to get out and find a village to connect with, but she wants to. Did you find that connecting through people online, how did you kind of get out of, I don't know, what did you do in your creative process to begin writing this memoir? Because I find like it'd be so therapeutic, like right there.
No, it
a writer
was.
Or a filmmaker.
It was. I wouldn't have called myself
from just
a writer.
Like throwing it out there, maybe even GPT, just throwing it out there and like getting some of these emotions out to work through while you're, kind of living in this space that can be very overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I hadn't. I journaled. I wouldn't have called myself a writer before this. I hardly, it's kind of feels like, does a shoe fit to say I'm a writer?
Yes.
Thank you. But it was definitely out of like necessity. Like I was so kind of disoriented and like, what is going on in my headspace? I like needed to write it down to have that proof of life and that proof of, is this really what's going through my head? Is this really what I'm thinking? I'm a really reflective person. Hence kind of the history of journaling, but I really just started to kind of document, like as a journalist, like what is happening, like as a scientist, like, okay, what am I observing? What's my data here? What was an antecedent? What were these different pieces? Tuning into other parts of myself. Before I became a mother, I got scientific training, and I'm a professional with communication and development, which kind of blends and blurs lines with psychology. And so I'm like, I have some understanding of these different concepts. And so I was really just trying to kind of turn the microscope on myself and really try to help me understand what was going on, because I felt so foreign to myself. Yeah. And by getting it out on paper, it was kind of cathartic. And then I just kind of kept writing it and wanting to document it, because I was convinced, though no one was talking about it, I couldn't be the only one. Sure. And so I was like, for the one girl that's going to, watch your film and like, I want to be an astronaut, for that one mom, maybe someday, who might read this, or whoever might read this, that when I started writing it, I didn't know what it would be. But I just kept writing. I would have a really hard day, or I would just like have an experience. I'm like, hey, what was that about? Actually the original draft had actually some, research articles and kind of my commentary on them. And what's actually the book now is completely just memoir. One of my editors was saying, pick a genre. Pick something.
Editors.
Editors. But I appreciated that, because they were really, they're like, no one can argue your experience. Whereas if you get into like, kind of wanting to critique literature, like if you don't have the credentials, that's maybe not as, so I was like, okay, I can do that. So I really rewrote what is now the book in 6 months. Wow. From what I originally had. And I just did it in like 2-hour increments on Fridays before I picked up my kindergartner from school. And I felt like I had a quilt that I just cut apart and like reorganized. I also had continued learning about postpartum mood and anxiety disorders, which I feel like, yes, I met criteria for them, but I also feel like those are the symptoms you have living in an oppressed system to mothers. Like that's the natural consequence. That is the canary in the coal mine. And when I got the help I needed, symptoms went away. So I'm like,
imagine that.
Yeah.
There's that part in your book that this is also something that stood out for me, that like you were in the waiting room, like sitting across, in the pediatric, sitting across some other newborn babies and moms. And I think we can all imagine ourselves in that space, our baby in the car seat, sitting at the office, like you're still hurting, all the things. It's all about the baby. And you say, I mentally patted my own back in praise as I calculated a score of 0 on the Edinburgh postnatal scale of depression. You're doing it. You're beating those baby blues. Good job. Like you're like,
amazing.
Your analysis and your scientific brain and your academic brain is very like in this book too, like the way you kind of organize stuff and like you think it through and you analyze and then you assess and research. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm good. But then people on the outside world was like, I don't think you're good. Like, you right.
Or when they did see me, like my parents did see me fall apart at like that 6 months postpartum, they were so surprised because I had this precedent set of being very capable, very together. And, they wanted to be supportive and they're like, oh, it's a bad day. Or, I mean, I don't know. It was just, I kind of got to finish some things in that second matrescence that I didn't do in adolescence. Of some maybe identity formation, of reckoning with different relationships, of really asserting myself, of rebelling in ways. I think I even used some of that language in that, like, everyone's saying push. I'm like, I'm not ready to push. I'm not going to do what you say to push. So like,
don't tell me what to do.
And I was so, for my first child, I was like, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to take a perinatal class. I'm just going to do my hypnobirthing. And I don't want to have anyone. I mean, I was so rebellious. I was so youthful and rebellious in that way, because I wanted to figure it out. And so I can kind of see now looking back, that I guess I had some unfinished business with even adolescence, of asserting myself, of asserting, what I needed, what I wanted, and really undoing the people pleasing that I had gotten really good at. And that I needed to honor myself and recognize that I had legitimate needs, which I don't think this country gives a lot of space for women to have legitimate needs, even like foundational human needs. And so to start to say that, because there's so much, well, you're a mom now. It's not about you. And that was really the voice in my head that I was like battling against, that got so loud. And it took me raising my voice and getting mad and feeling these feelings that I had, not from my natal family, but like from society, had communicated, oh, women, good women don't do that. Like, you don't want to be bitchy. You don't want to be this or the other thing. And so it was kind of like this backlog of all the things that I couldn't do, I was doing. And I was feeling, and then it overwhelmed my system and it was really dysregulating. And then I needed to learn, okay, well, how do I feel that in a way that feels good, that's in alignment with my, my temperament and my ethics and all the things that, like, just because the pendulum swung really far to hot, but where is it really going to live? And so now I feel like I have a much greater capacity to feel, with so much more permission to feel, and humanity and self-compassion. And I think that's what I hope readers can find for themselves. I had someone recently reach out to me saying, thank you so much for writing your book. I'm inspired to go just take a few days by myself and just reflect. I haven't had time away in 2 years. And I just need a second. And like, what writing prompts do you recommend? And, it was just touching that they took the time to reach out to me. And they're like, I haven't slept in I haven't slept through the night in 2 years. And, I remember what that feels like. I mean, I talk about feels like jet lag. Like you just feel like dryer lint in your brain, or that is your brain is dryer lint. And so I just, you know, how great for that, with that one reader that shifted that gave them permission to center themselves. Or my colleague who read it, who doesn't have children, does research with children. And she said, it completely shifted my perception of when I see a mom now with a small child. She's like, and her partner read it, and he's like, oh my gosh, like I have a whole different way of responding in society to moms, because I got to know, I got a peek into that private sphere that that capitalism and the patriarchy don't want us revealing to each other. And so in that way, it feels like I'm getting to be the rebel, or be rebellious in ways to kind of push against a system that I would have never thought I would want to. Like you said, like your life just kind of changes when you become a mom. Writing a book is something I never thought I would do. Specializing in maternal mental health. I'm slowly starting the process of pursuing a PhD. And it may take me a long time, but that's okay. I feel like I've got so many lived life experiences that are going to make it flow and, you know, grease those wheels. And I'm excited for the challenge or the opportunity to have mentorship and things to be able to make some changes in the levels of policy and the levels of interventions and prevention of these, of people feeling anxious and depressed, which I think is education. So if we can get these cinema, these books to high schoolers, to people, young people before they need it,
right?
That is the ultimate generational changing prevention, because they'll just know exemplars, like, you know, the daughter, if that high school student who, you know, I want to become an astronaut, even if she doesn't become an astronaut, should she have a daughter, she's going to tell her daughter, you could be an astronaut. Yeah. So like just the ripple effect on future generations is, we will never know, which is so exciting. And my daughters would view your film and be able to be like, oh yeah, another exemplar of like what it's really like. Because I'm definitely wanting to show them a human mom who has needs, who gets grumpy, who apologizes, who is irritable, who's irreverent, who's creative and silly and goofy, and reparenting her inner children of different ages. And I want them to see that it's messy and possible, and not, you know, yes, it's overwhelming at times, but that's life. You feel alive at some of those moments too. So it's, it was definitely out of necessity that I started writing it. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that my partner believed in me and encouraged me and said yes. And that I had serendipitous experiences to support and pave that way. Getting to work with Molly Caro May has been amazing. Her book, Body Full of Stars, is phenomenal in the sense of a really raw window into transformational mother life. And that was a real peak for me into what it could be like as, again, an exemplar of like, okay, well, she did it. She felt really mad and not herself, but she's okay. Like she made it. And so, those types of things to hold on to, though we may not row across the Pacific Ocean, we have that seed in us to be like, okay, like this little talisman of like, I can hold on to this and it will soothe me in some way. It'll motivate me. And again, even if it's just one person, that's all, it was worth it for all that.
I think what's really cool about all these women coming together, for you guys taking the time to do this, and putting it out there for thousands of families, you know, parents, women, mothers, fathers, you know, to see. I think, yes, it's empowering, but also I just want to create this safe space where people can come and they could read your book and then actually have access to you and be like, hey, this was so great. Do you know how I could start this? And you could write a quick sentence back. You know what I mean? Like have access to this community of people that are doing great things, have won Emmy Awards, who have written books, who are authors, who are, you know, doctors and therapists and psychiatrists and neuroscientists, and that they feel like they can have access to them and their information and feel supported in that. I feel so often Sometimes it's maybe unworthiness or I just don't know where to turn. Hoping this will be a space where people can come and feel inspired and supported, a space where they can connect really. And
yeah, and motherhood's this great equalizer, right? It's like, in what other setting would we be coming together? I wouldn't have met either of you without motherhood as this foundation. And so you might not think you have anything in common with a neuroscientist or whoever, but then motherhood brings you to this same plane of like, oh my goodness, are you struggling? I'm struggling. You know, it's funny how even with like a fitness class, you come in as moms and then you have to be like, oh wait, I'm also this other person, but you connect as moms first. And that's been new for me in the last 6 years. Like, oh, usually I come to every conversation as I'm a filmmaker. Oh yeah, I'm also a mom. But like, once you become a mom, you're coming in as like, I'm Bryce's mom, I'm Ellis's mom, I'm this other identity. But I love how it can connect us with women we might never otherwise connect with.
Yeah, worldwide, every culture.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah, it's a sisterhood that you get to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. And whether you birth that kid or you adopt that kid or
Yeah.
you're,
Totally.
the aunt who ended up raising the kid, or you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's just so many ways to mother and be a part of that motherhood journey. It's in us. It's in us. And it's really cool.
And we learn too. And we learn a lot of things.
So much. There's so much to learn. I think that's
We learn
overwhelming for me. I was like, there's so much to learn. I want to make a movie. I want to write a book. I'm a multi-passionate person. So I want to do all the things. And then putting me in a room with all you, I can through everyone else.
You're doing it.
I can.
You are
creating this summit.
Yeah, you're facilitating all this.
All the things. So it's been such a blessing. Thank you, you two, for hopping on. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing your film. Thank you, Emily, for sharing your book. I hope you all pick up and purchase this. I think she was able to get a coupon code for you guys.
Yes, you put in mothers on the Demeter Press website, and it should give you a nice little discount. Also, the price on their website is in Canadian dollars. So if you're buying in American, it'll be less than that plus the discount. So
got it. And then if we were in Oregon purchasing it in person, we wouldn't pay taxes, which would be so great.
That's true. Yes.
I used to love shopping in Portland. I was like, oh, it says it's $10 and they just asked me for $10. It's amazing.
What a concept.
I know. Here we are in LA, we're not even going to get into that conversation. But thank you so much, ladies. I hope everyone enjoyed the film, and I would love to get that film out there to the world more. So please connect with Sarah, or connect with myself on different screening opportunities where we can take that. I'm just going off on whim. That cool, Sarah? We can
I'm thinking about posting it on my own Instagram as well. So we'll just say reach out to Sarah for screening opportunities.
Yeah. And then people will have access to this as well through other links. So thank you. I really appreciate you too. It's been so lovely. I don't know, what day is it? It's Wednesday. Have a wonderful Wednesday. I'm going to have to now premiere this on a Wednesday. And thanks again. I appreciate you two so much.
Thank you, Carly.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, Emily. Thank you.
All right. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.